He was a morbidly obese surgeon destined for an operating table and an early death. Now he's a rebel MD who is fabulously fit and fighting to make America healthy again. This is Stay Off My Operating Table with Dr. Philip Ovadia.
It is the Stay Off My Operating Table podcast with Dr. Philip Ovadia. Phil, you and I have not actually been on a podcast together, a recording together, in feels like forever, at least a month. And here we are, starting with two of the most entertaining people we've had ever, making a return trip. So I'm just going to let you take it from here and introduce these crazy nut jobs while I sit here and eat some of their product.
There we go. Yeah, definitely. So for anyone who caught the first episode with Joe and John, you'll know what you're in for. For those of you that didn't, if we had been recording the last 5 minutes, you might have gotten a glimpse. But I can guarantee you the next hour is not going to be boring. Always good seeing Joburg, Engleson from Joburg Meats.
And did you train him?
And even my dogs are excited about it.
The associate producers.
Exactly. You say Joburg and he's barking already.
They knew we were talking about some good high quality meat products, but we were excited to have these guys back on, not only to talk about what they make and what they do, but really what they've been seeing in the food industry. And that's kind of something we touched on during the first episode, but certainly going to want to hear more from these guys on, because they're really doing some unique stuff out there, I'll say. But maybe before we start, why don't you guys just give a little bit of the quick background for anyone who didn't hear the first episode?
Sure. So we had a pleasure, of course, and everybody put on your seatbelts. We're ready to rock.
Yeah, Big John, how's the weather out there?
Very good. Full day. It feels like my California weather. I'm from California, originally living in Brooklyn. Just a short story. I come from a family of doctors, physicians. I spoke about it last time. Had some medical issues in my 20s, misdiagnosis, and I've been on a health journey for now close to 40 years of trying to search and grow and be involved with products and services and ideas that are going to make people healthy, kids healthy, the world healthy. And I started a company in 1990 called You Are What You Eat, which brought healthy and nutritious products to schools and the mass market, and built an Inc. 500 growing company with that, and been consulting and involved in the field ever since. And I'm the Chief Strategic Officer here at Joburg Meats, and proud to work with a great team and work with people like Dr. Ovadia, who is one of my go-to when I'm looking for good information and solid information, and not dogmatic information. I call it firm information, but dogmatism, because that could be, in diet and nutrition, that could be very difficult for most people. And I thought that we would, I would just touch this off today. It's middle of September, beginning of September, back to school. And I'd love to get into talking about kids and snacks and how we can help with, obviously, with our product, but in general, that concept of how can we educate and put on the table better food and quality food for our kids, so they don't have to get into the difficulties as an adult and deal with some of the metabolic issues that are being dealt with.
It'd be cool, just to kind of catch us all up, to summarize from y'all's perspective, what's the problem with childhood nutrition?
I would
identify the problem, and then we'll talk about one of the solutions.
So I would say the problem is, it's twofold. One is the abundance of highly processed foods that kids are eating, and that's one, is the abundance of it, and the second is the addiction of it. It's very addicted. It's, I see it with my grandkids, and for kids growing up, that the sugars, the maltodextrins, the dextrins, the all the ingredients and processed foods are highly addictive. So you have a two-headed monster that not only is it so available everywhere, so even if you're the purist in your house, they're going to friends, they're going to parties, they're going to places. And then, I call it the 3 C's of the worst possible thing is cookies, candy, and cake. Those things are being served to kids. And
what's wrong with that?
yeah, exactly. And that's what happens. That's what happens.
Those are all the 3 C's are meal replacements, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one of the things that has certainly struck me, right, is that kids don't even learn about food and nutrition anymore. There have been some various articles and videos and stuff, going around on the internet looking at school lunch and school food in general, right, in Japan versus here in the US. And one of the things that struck me about it was that the kids in Japan, not only, are they getting better quality food, fresh food, but they're actually learning about the food and how it's prepared, and it's part of their sort of education. Whereas here in the US, lunch is lunch. You just go and you eat whatever they put in front of you. They almost don't want you thinking about what it is, right? They don't really want kids and the parents knowing what it is. It's just school lunch. It's something for them to eat. And, the kids and our society in general, part of the problem is how disconnected we have become from the stuff that we're putting in our mouths, which, for the most part shouldn't even be called food, and real food, and where real food comes from and why it's important. And I think, again, the schools are where the solution is going to start, right? Because it's a big part of the problem, but it's also where we have the opportunity now to start getting some solutions out there.
Oh, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I saw that thing about Japan. I mean, it's unbelievable it's so different. I mean, everything is prepared fresh. Everything is, and they have an awareness. I would say the average 10-year-old kid, or even older, has no idea that there's actually, there's a farm and there's actually things grow out of the ground or are alive. And there's actually, they just see a package on aisle 22 that's in a box and with some cartoons on it, and that's their food. I mean, and that, which you said, I looked at, there's a company, jelly beans. I was looking at the ingredients in the jelly beans and I'm like, everything is just art. It's just an artificial thing. There's nothing real in it. So I'm like, and the kids are pounding them down, and I'm like, this is crazy. It's crazy stuff. And so I couldn't agree with you more. And really, I feel like
one second. Do we go controversial here?
Yes,
Always.
please. Huh.
Yeah, do we go that maybe jelly beans is owned by the medical industrial complex? Which then you grow up and then you need all their medicines and all their procedures because of the way they've already groomed you?
I mean, I thought you were going to get really radical. I mean, it's pretty.
I kept it calm.
It's pretty clear, and I've said this many times, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, what does food have to do with drugs? But if your food is like drugs, then you need drugs to counteract your food. So, I mean, it's a whole process, of course. I mean,
it's all one.
I mentioned this
one big
before.
Happy family.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, and you guys can correct me with this. I grew up, nobody that I ever knew growing up in my teens, whenever, had a peanut, allergic to peanuts. It didn't exist. I mean, I never heard of a gluten allergy at that time either. I mean, I didn't hear of a celiac or any of these. All of a sudden I'm looking at when glyphosate came into the market, which is in the early 70s. And then all of a sudden in the mid 70s, late 70s, all these things started to pop their ugly heads. And you're like, I mean, I'm looking at this backwards because I didn't realize it at the time, but that, you see now so many products and so many kids with so many, I mean, so many allergies. And I see it with my grandkids. I mean, I've been trying to help them, try to focus them on taking away certain things and see them improve with skin allergies. But it's a humongous challenge. It's something we must undertake. And that's why I think it's very meritorious that what Dr. Ovadia is doing and what we can all do together to try to help this ship sail.
Okay, we've identified the problem. You guys have a solution. Not the solution, but a solution.
One of the solutions. I'll tell you this, and this is what my testing has always been with a product that I would want to put on the market. You know, you can give it to people, you give it to your friends, you give it to people, they say, how do you like it? The true test is if you give a product to a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, 11-year-old, there's no way they're going to eat something that they don't like. That's just the fact. So I can only tell you this, and this, you know, my son brought my 5-year-old granddaughter today. First thing she says, where's Joburg? Where's Joburg? It was 10 in the morning. You know, it wasn't like, you know, I'm making some eggs and toast. It was like, where's Joburg? So I gave her the new flavor. By the way, this is one of the things we wanted to do. We have 2 new flavors, but this is a black.
I don't have any of that.
Yeah, it's on the way to you because it just got.
Good.
John, it magically blended into the bridge.
Yes, it did. There it is.
Here you go.
There it is. Anyway, the kids love it. And it's such a joy because I'm saying, okay, they're getting their protein, they're getting nutrition, and there's no junk. I mean, that's it. There's no, you know, a little apple cider vinegar, salt, and that's it, and some spices.
No, you're talking now about the black truffle, John. You got to talk about that. It is 100% real black truffle in there.
Yes, correct. Of course.
Okay. There's no fake flavors or smells. It's the real McCoy.
Correct.
And it's expensive as I don't want to say what the ingredients.
We ain't sacrificing anything for anything. We're keeping everything the highest quality, and that's what we want to do here. And these are things that kids can have. And look, I'm not going to deny we're not a bag of chips for 49 cents, but you know what? This is another issue Jack, we can put it on the chart. We have to invest in our kids. If that means to spend a little bit more for their health, things of value in life we spend for. Okay. And I don't know why things got so watered down that, I got to get the cheapest, so we're going to put junk in all this stuff.
You know what, John? John, we actually spoke about this before, that this is, you started the conversation today of what's the problem with nutritional education for our children, right? What are we told as growing up? Vegetables are healthy, meat maybe, or potato chips are healthy because it's made of potatoes. Okay, nobody's looking at what the process is or what it is, and how maybe it's not exactly where you want it to be. But this is the education we grew up on. That potato chips is healthy, pastrami is healthy, or anything. Oh, meat! You go into the store, it's meat. Oh, it's got to be healthy, right?
Okay, wait. You just rung a bell for me. Pastrami's not healthy?
Did you ever look at the ingredients?
Are you trying to embarrass me here?
No, that's exactly what we're talking about. You grow up your whole life, you're like, pastrami, it's meat, it's healthy, it's good.
Right.
What would you think otherwise?
Exactly.
Yeah, hot dogs, the #1 staple in the world. What's in it?
Yeah,
dogs?
No, but there's corn syrup, #1 ingredient in there. Not #1, but it's a high ingredient, and there's corn syrup. You're like, really? You couldn't put just regular sugar? You're giving kids a protein, and you couldn't figure out how to just put a healthy sugar in there? Really?
Yeah, this is really, I think, one of the, issues, and I guess what I'd love to hear your perspectives on are, when we think about the barriers to actually getting good, healthy food to market, right? We can think about, do people, are they so confused about what healthy is, right? Or, and I guess, looking at this from the company side, because you guys are trying to, build a company, right, based on providing actually healthy food, right? And, you just brought up a good example, a hot dog, right? A hot dog can be healthy if it's just beef, right? Or beef and pork, maybe, and some spices. Nothing wrong with that, right? But 90% of the hot dogs, maybe 95% of the hot dogs that are in the supermarket, you go and you look at their ingredients, and there's 30 other ingredients besides beef and pork and spices, and 3/4 of them we don't even know what they are, right? So is a hot dog healthy? It depends, right? Same thing with the pastrami, right? If you get your smoker out and season up the corned beef, and you season up the brisket and you make it into pastrami, it's going to be fine. But if you're getting the pastrami in the supermarket at the deli, and they've injected it with these 20 other chemicals and who knows what else, then we have a problem. So
well,
do you
one
guys
of those
think
is
it's
called
more
pink
of
salt.
yeah, do you guys think it's more of a problem that the industry basically no longer understands what is actually healthy? Or do you think they are so driven by the profit margin, right? That, healthy food, truly healthy food, to do these things right, just isn't sort of commercially viable?
I would say if I may, I would say it's a combination of both. Here's what you're going to see, in my opinion, coming up. What Coca-Cola did, for instance, is they knew that at one point, Coca-Cola, they couldn't stand on Coca-Cola alone because it's just not a healthy product. So what did they do? They bought a bunch of water companies. And so they, these companies pigeonhole toward, where the trends are. So what you're going to see is these companies are going to start looking into, let's say, larger, like companies we're in the kosher world, but say like Applegate and these companies who are producing, quality meats that without preservatives and all of the other junk in it. You're going to see some of the bigger companies come in because they know that's going to be really profitable because, the cat's out of the bag right now. There's information on the internet, and thankfully between, I can go on and on, but, between yourself and so many other great spokespeople who are available and information, Ken Berry, we can go on, and doctors and medical doctors who have, obviously have great credibility to the general audience, are coming out and are explaining clearly of what's happened with their lives and their patients and what success has been. And this information is becoming more and more available. So I see, a growing trend that's going to do two things. One, it's going to expose the junk that's, prevalent. And we're seeing that even on a governmental level with the red dyes and things like that. And slowly people are going to become aware of more and more of the obstacles that are in food. And at the same time, you're going to see that it's going to actually be business-wise more profitable for a company to come out with food that people can, pronounce, eat, enjoy, and know that they put something good in their mouth. So I say it's both of those things. And thank God for the information that comes out, and thank God for the freedom of speech, so that people, like yourself and others can get the word out.
I spoke to a manufacturer, somebody who worked at one of the biggest hot dog manufacturers in America. So without saying names,
No, we're losing you.
why don't you make What?
Your signal's breaking up a little.
What'd you say?
Your signal
Could you
is
hear me?
breaking up a little. Yeah.
Now you hear me. Okay, good. All right. So I spoke to one of the largest manufacturer of hot dogs in the country. And I asked him, I said, why don't you? Why don't you make it healthy? Like, why don't you make it like change some minor ingredients? He's like, straight up, they did not want to change a thing over $1 billion a year.
Yeah, I
John?
mean, things are working,
Process
right?
that.
If you're a company and things are working for you, you don't necessarily have the incentive to change. And, one of the things we've talked about a lot of times on this program is, people need to vote with their wallets ultimately. The way to change the food industry, yeah, maybe some of the government regulations might do a little bit, although, quite honestly, I don't think people, for the most part, are overly enthusiastic. That's really going to help, because you take out red dye number 5, well, they can still use red dye number 4 and red dye number 9, and it's doubtful that it's going to make real big impacts. But if people individually stop buying that stuff and start buying the higher quality versions of these foods, that's what's ultimately going to push the market, is kind of the way that I'm looking at it, right? And again, this starts with the individual saying that having that better quality, better for me version of the food is important. It's worth spending the extra, money on it, because it's going to improve the quality of my life. And the reality is it's going to save the individual money in the long term, because the back end of eating this crappy food and the medical costs associated with that, not to mention the decrement in your quality of life and probably shortening your life, gets pretty expensive when you really think about that. But of course, most people don't think about that, when they're just at the supermarket, and it's a choice between the $1.99 version and the $3.99 version. They're usually going to go with the cheaper one, even though it's almost certainly worse for their health.
Yeah,
How
correct.
do you start to overcome that, right? Because you guys are putting out what we'll call a premium product, right? Both in terms of cost and quality, and there are less expensive and lower quality versions, essentially, of what you're making. And so how have you guys started to think about, getting consumers getting consumers willing to spend the extra money because they're getting a better quality product?
So a quick story to that idea. I buy my eggs from I try to buy my eggs from an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. They send them to me soy-free, corn-free, pasture. And I pay about, it depends, it fluctuates between $9 and $10 a dozen. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, because I love eggs. So he's like, wow, it's so much for the eggs, And then, so I just put him in perspective. I said, hey, you go to Starbucks in the morning, you get a pastry. I said, you have no issue spending $6, $7, $10 with a coffee at Starbucks in the morning. And my 3 eggs are 80 cents a piece, it's $2.40 a piece. So I was like, everything's in perspective. So I was trying to show that people are spending so much money on things easily for junk. So therefore, if they just sort of take that concept and idea that, okay, I'm the cappuccino and the pastry, which I just spent $12 or $14 on, I transfer that to something healthier, which is actually going to be less expensive when you look at it. So it's really just to teach people that. And number 2, like I said to Jack before, we have to teach people to invest in our health. You're not going to if we're putting $3 a gallon of gasoline in a car, food is our gasoline. You wouldn't put something that the car's not going to, run properly. You would say, oh, no, I don't put that. I'm going to put premium. I have a nice car. I put premium. I spend it. We have to get people the idea that spending on food is an investment and it will pay off in numerous ways. And I think that's one way we can do it. I mean, it's going to take time. It's going to take, energy. But I can tell you this, our clientele that we sell directly, who like our product, I have not heard pricing as an issue ever. It's really the people who are not going to buy my product anyway, and they're going to buy the chips, or they're in the market and they bought it once and they're like, oh, I'm not going to pay, spend $8. I'm going to buy my chips for 99 cents because they don't care. I mean, those are people who we have to get their minds to understand why they're investing into a better product and what it's going to do for them and how that's going to make a better, a win-win for everyone. So I think that's really the concept. It's really about investing, understanding what food really is, and that fresh food and the joy of, I have a joy of wanting to buy things directly from a farm, and this idea, if I spend a little bit more, because it's beautiful. You understand these are people trying to do something very good. And so I think that's a consciousness that we need to just put into people.
There's so many ways to go with this type of conversation. While you guys were talking, you talked about maltodextrin, and I've never done research on maltodextrin. So while you guys were chatting about it, I did some quick research on maltodextrin. What is it? What's it in? And my AI research engine here tells me these are the most consumed foods in the most consumed categories that contain maltodextrin. Lay's potato chips, cupcakes. This one shocked me. The number one most consumed breakfast cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Wow.
Cliff Bars, Gatorade Lemon Lime. Number one frozen meal, Kirkland Frozen Pizza. Salad dressing, ranch salad dressing contains maltodextrin. My wife makes ranch dressing. As best as I remember, she makes it out of some sort of cream and vinegar, and I don't know why you'd need maltodextrin in there.
You don't have the little sprinkle thing of maltodextrin sitting in the pantry there, Jack?
Yes,
Campbell's,
I'm sure you do. Come on,
Campbell's
say the
chicken
truth.
noodle soup.
Yep.
And then, of course, the various sugar substitutes, Splenda, Equal, and Sweet and Low are all maltodextrin. And then infant formula. So the top 10 categories of most consumed foods. And
yes, and the key to maltodextrin, is the glycemic index on this is around 100 or more, which means that a person can look on a bag of potato chips and see 0 sugar, but yet it's got a product that's going to spike their sugar more than fructose, more than table sugar. So
I didn't realize that. Maltodextrin has a higher glycemic index than table sugar.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I don't mean to be going down the maltodextrin path, but it rung this for me. Decades ago, I told my first wife, life's too short to eat margarine. And so I've been eating butter forever. But I came to the avoiding the sweet stuff later. And I'm just for our audience, today is the day that the Pfizer board of directors, the Senate grilled Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about his work. So I'm particularly, I'm excited. I'm incredibly encouraged that there's some sort of massive shift that is happening in the collective consciousness of our country about our health, about our welfare. And when I look at what the cost of a bag of potato chips, a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cliff Bars, Kind Bars, and Nature Valley granola bars, a Kirkland frozen pizza, Infamil infant formula, and I compare it calorie for calorie. I compare it. I've learned over these 4 years of working with Dr. Ovadia to pay attention to this, to how satiating food is.
Correct.
Apparently, that's a function of protein and fat rather than the carbs that are so easy to be addicted to. And
Yes,
it seems like we're getting there. It seems like it feels like today with Kennedy's testimony, and y'all are going to be listening to this probably 3 months after his testimony, so who knows what will have happened by this point. But it feels like today that we just hit the tipping point. I'm not sure what that's going to mean for Joburg meats in particular, but it feels like the entire category of eat real food instead of this this manufactured crap, like we may have just hit the tipping point. I'd love for you guys to check in with us offline 3 months from now. And I'd like to hear how your business has changed since Kennedy's testimony, but prior to this particular episode being published. I think we're going to see some significant changes.
I agree with you. Listen, it was to be McDonald's French fries in the 60s were 3 ingredients: potatoes, tallow, and salt. And now they're 8 or 9 ingredients. So why would that change? Because those other ingredients are cheap, addicting, and extremely processed. And so companies have been doing this. So the irony of everything is that we thought, or many people thought, that eating a hamburger was not good for you, when the hamburger itself was not the problem. It was all the other junk that came with it, which was the bun that had all the junk in it and all the condiments, and then you had perhaps a sugar shake or something like this. So people were thinking, oh, the hamburgers are not good, and the hamburger's the healthiest thing. It's there's all there is, the piece of meat with all the health and nutrition in it. And so they did a great job of obfuscating truth and what is really good for health and what is not. And it took a lot of, I would say, and I'd love to ask doctor on this, anecdotal evidence for me in health and nutrition is so much greater than empirical today, because empirical is controlled studies. I can't understand how you can actually get a real controlled study. Can you get 100 people eating a certain way for 2 months, and you follow them, that they could really, let's say they added 10 ounces of beef to their diet or something like that, exactly. I mean, I had personal clients that couldn't stay on a particular plan for a week, let alone all those particular times. So my point is that what I mean by anecdotal is you see this time and time again. I was overweight. I was this, I had these metabolic issues. I had a pre-diabetic. I had an A1C of over 6 or this. And I changed my diet to that. And all these things got better. And this I see over and over again. And I think it will ultimately become empirical. But I think for now, we have to, go by this announcement from people such as yourselves and Dr. Ovadia and others who are doing similar work, that we just have to keep publicizing and keep exposing and keep and recognizing what the best path is for optimal health.
Yeah, no, I think we're certainly seeing, right, that, the N=1 times, thousands and tens of thousands and 100,000s becomes very powerful. And, it honestly, this sort of, reliance on, the evidence, right? That it has to be a randomized controlled trial. A lot of that, I think, comes about because they, the powers that be, we'll call them, right? The institutions that are doing very well under the current system, right? They want to ignore all of those n equal ones that are out there, and they don't want to accept that evidence that's in front of them. But like Jack said, I think we are starting to see some tides turn. You guys, we see each other, right? You guys and myself and Jack, we see each other at conferences that are based around low carb metabolic health, right? But I know you guys go to more, general, food focused type conferences and events. Maybe you can talk about, your product is very well received, right, at the low carb conferences because it's great. It meets all the check boxes of the people that are there and that are interested in this. But I would just love to hear kind of what the reception is, what the differences are when you're at sort of, let's say, just a general food conference versus the low carb conferences in terms of how your product's being received, what kind of questions you're getting. I think that would be very interesting for our audience to hear about.
Sure, Joe, go with that one. You've been to a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that. That you just brought up such a beautiful point. Because it all comes back down to the unaware. I don't want to say uneducated or unaware. I'll just go with the unaware. People are just not aware. They don't know. You'll have the average person go into a store. They're going to go, "Oh, jerky, it's healthy." Like we spoke about before, pastrami, it's healthy. Because the meat, of course, it's healthy. Hot dog, oh, of course, it's healthy. Let me feed it to my kids 4 times a week. With all the nitrates and all the corn syrup that's in there, you might as well just make a cake, buy a commercial cake and give it to them for supper and just throw in some protein. Jerky is the same thing. I get this all the time. Oh, I love jerky or I don't like jerky. I'm not tasting your product because I don't like jerky. Why don't you like jerky? Oh, because this one is an aware product. This is an aware person. He goes, oh, I don't like all the sugar and chemicals it has. So I said, did you even look at did you even look at this? That you just made that statement? This is not a jerky. It's a steak slice. It has no sugar, has no carbs, no chemicals, nothing. Oh, so could you tell me the difference? What's the difference between jerky and I just told you half of it, right? It's different product. This is actually a healthy product. How it's made with the ingredients that's in it, for example, apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar they say is very healthy. I think it's it's good for weight loss.
It can help lower blood sugar. It's been shown, yes.
But I actually take a shot of it almost every day. As is, just it's like a shot of apple cider vinegar. So people ask the question like, okay, what is the difference between between your steak, Joburg steak slices, and your average jerky? You're in the same category. So I say that's a mistake. People put us in the jerky section simply because it's just another snack. Just like you would have snacks that are healthier in the same category. And just like you would have a cookie that's, gluten-free next to the other one. The only thing that bothers me is that if you go to a store, they're going to put the gluten-free cookies not next to the other cookies. They're actually putting it separate, if you notice that. But yet somehow they still put it into the same area, same section. The beautiful thing here is this is actually a slab of meat, like a steak. It looks literally like a big, nice, juicy steak. It's what it looks like. A juicy, beautiful ribeye steak is what it looks like. And then we spice it, we soak it in the vinegar, and then we hang dry it in a room for 2 weeks. It should naturally dry without heat treating it. So we have everything is killed in it. All the bacteria are killed. Everything is safe. Everything is according to the USDA guidelines. Everything is exactly the way it used to be done back in the day. There's no chemicals. They didn't have chemicals back 100 years ago. And we do it exactly the way they used to do it 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, is when they had meat and they had nowhere to store it because they didn't even have a fridge. So they let it dry out in the sun, they let it dry out in the natural air. And now you had a preserved product that was shelf stable. We take that product after it comes out of the room, out of the dry chamber for 2 weeks, and we slice it up into little thin slices, which I can show you right over here the difference, which is actually extremely.
Yeah, for those who are not watching, I've got one in my hand. The meat's about the about the thickness, I'd say
Here.
5 index cards. Put 5
Oh.
index cards together, and that's the thickness.
Yeah, this is actually a new flavor. If you can see it.
You're blending in there, but
Yeah, blending into the background right here. Perfect. This one here is for those of you that are daredevils, because this one is an 8 out of 10 on the heat. This is called the chili bites. So now here, if you give a look here, see that?
Yeah,
Can you see that?
yeah.
You see the way it looks like a piece of steak? You see that pink middle? Can you see that or no?
Yeah,
Back it up a little bit.
looks good.
Yeah.
You see the shade coming right through it?
Right.
Yeah. That you're not getting on a jerky. That's because this is the sliced face of the beef that's actually like a steak. There's nothing on it. There's no sugar. There's no syrup. The way a jerky is made, they actually take it and soak it in a syrup because they also, the loss, because when you dry these out and dehydrate it, you're losing 50% at least of its fluid. So now how do you compensate for that? Candy it in sugar and syrup, and now you made up the difference and you don't lose that much money.
I did not realize it was actually made differently.
This is not dehydrated. A jerky is
probably because I'm an idiot, but
I wouldn't say
see
that.
now.
No.
Oh. And that's okay, folks. Non-paid testimonial here. I love beef jerky. I eat a bunch of it, just because for me it's a great snack. And this Joburg stuff, it's like it but different. And I really do like it. And now I understand why it's different. I never realized that air drying was not the normal way it was done. But I have wondered why the texture is noticeably different from most of the beef jerky that I eat. And I eat pretty good beef jerky. So, yep. Okay. I'm a fan. I love this stuff, and I'm definitely going to get some of the hot stuff.
Oh, that one's on fire.
I sent you guys. I sent both of you out to some of the new flavors, so you could probably get it any day because we just produced last Friday with the holidays, but it's on the way to you guys with pleasure.
Ooh, hold on a second. How many black truffle fans are out there, guys? Black truffle. How many black truffle fans on there? I'm a fan. I love it. That's why I made it. But how many fans are actually out there?
We're gonna see.
We'll find out.
find out. It's going to be awesome. You know, in the last few minutes, why don't you talk about, you know, what the future looks like for you guys in the food industry? You know, we're certainly all optimistic about, you know, some changes that are going to result. But for you guys, you know, what are you looking towards? What are you looking to do over the next, you know, 3 to 5 years, let's say, on the, you know, on the large scale to really start to shift the food industry itself?
I love that question, John. I'll start. You'll take over.
With pleasure.
The way I see it, you know, coming from where I started and to where we are today and the direction that we're going, everything that I spoke about to you before, about everything that perceived healthy, the word perceived healthy, why only perceive it healthy if you can actually deliver it healthy? That's my mission. My mission is to change everything that you wanted to eat and couldn't eat because of all the chemicals that's in it and everything that's in it that you didn't like and your mother didn't let you have it. Now you can. That is my mission. Our mission at Joburg is to turn your standard snack and consumable meat protein item into what you would call a healthy option, a healthy, perfect, delicious product. So not just it's healthy, it also tastes better too. And that's the goal. That you don't have to feel like you compromised, you actually upgraded. John,
So
go ahead.
I'll put an exclamation on that, ditto. And I would just like to say, on an informational side, I mean, so our goal is we have many items that we're trying to create and come out with, in, like he said, in those lines, charcuterie, all with no nitrates, no nitrites, any of the junk in it. And I think
No corn syrup. No corn syrup.
none. And I think the other thing is just and I've been talking to the team, and we've been working on, we're not just a product company, we are an information company. And to get out good information today about how meat and eggs and butter and all these things, which have been, thrown under the bus by, the pyramid and the et cetera, are really the healthy products. And to give this information, you might have heard of this. There's a girl on the internet called Steak and Butter Gal. Have you heard of?
Oh
okay.
yeah, she's been on the show.
Okay, so she's fantastic. Now she says like this. She says when she was on the standard American diet, nobody said anything, and then she had this horrible psoriasis and acne in her face, and she went vegan for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And everybody's keep it up, keep the great work. And she was still like this. She said, you know what? I'm going to try something different. And she tried basically carnivore. She went totally the opposite. In a few weeks, things started to clear up. And then after a couple of months, she had skin like a baby. And then people started to look at her strange. You're weird. It's such a stigma to be in this world until you can understand, people, and Dr. Vadi, I'm sure you deal with this all the time. People are like, what are you talking about? You're telling me to eat steaks every day? You're telling me to eat eggs every day? They're telling me not to, and people are healing this way, and people are getting better, and people are metabolically healthier. So I think twofold that we're going to try to A, bring the products that people are going to love, and B, bring information of how integrating these products is going to be a better snack for you. So we're in the world of snacks right now, or to-go foods, and it's just a fact. I mean, I'd love to sit down and have a steak at every meal, but you're on the road in traffic, you're traveling, you're at an event, you're at places. It's not always possible today. We live in this, so we have to come with this arsenal of good, healthy snacks. And like I said, kids also, they're going to continue to snack. So at least if we could substitute a little bit of healthier stuff that they're going to have, and that they're going to not spike their blood sugar, and they're not going to, freak out with all that ADD energy, and it's going to help them balance themselves and concentrate more. This is what we would love to be able to do.
And for those that follow any strict dieting or anything, we just added a new certification to ourselves. John.
Oh, Whole30.
Yes, we just got certified by Whole30 as well.
What's that? What is Whole30?
So Whole30, yeah. Okay, so Whole30 is a diet that is now, it's basically you can only have real food on it. It's meats and seafood, vegetables, eggs, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, ghee, animal fats. So there's no sugar, no alcohol, no grains, and no legumes on it. So it's actually, it's a marketing thing, but it's been growing quite a bit. So
an independent third-party tester that says,
correct.
Yeah, this stuff's legit.
Correct. Again, and I think Dr. Vadi would agree, if we could take people just to eat real food, that would be a unbelievable transformation, and that is anything in its real form without all, that it's not things in boxes and bags and, processed things. If we can eat real meat, seafood, vegetables, eggs, healthy fats, some spices, you're going to transform your health dramatically there. And then people need to do specific things on a more careful level that we can take to the next level. Thank God we still, again, I want to be suggestive in dieting and nutrition. I don't want to be dogmatic because, people still have to have the freedom to, we still live in thankfully, a free society, and we should be able to be free to, eat how we want to eat. But we should give information that is correct. That's very important.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the work that you guys are doing, and I love to see the success that you're having. As Jack said, we're, except for some of the product you send us, you're not paying us to say this, but we're both big fans, and it's a staple in my travel bag. Like you said, you got to be able to live life, and sometimes that involves travel and things like that. This is a great option, but even more love what you're doing, for the industry more broadly and trying to change things. Keep up the great work. And I guess we have to tell the people where they can get the good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Joburg Meats, JOBURG Meats.com. And so we still have a discount code for you. IFIXHEARTS. IFIXHEARTS. Put that in there and get 15% off. And as appreciation to your audience, we're very grateful to that. And, I just have to say that we're very grateful to people. People have been so nice to us, and we try to be generous ourselves with our product. And it's a give and take because we all need each other. I mean, you're seeing patients. You have to tell them, put them on diets. You need to tell them to eat things. We have to make products that they can eat. And we're working all together. We're grateful for your work, and you're helping, obviously, many patients that you see yourself, and all your work that you're doing by giving good information, on YouTube and other social media. So we're happy to be there as a go-to for people who need to fill their diet with good health and nutrition. So we're grateful and thank you.
Our guests have been Joburg and John Engleson of Joburg Meats. And we can say without fear of being contradicted, Joburg's biltong, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that, is grandfather tested and grandchild approved. Get yourself some, you'll like it. For Dr. Philip Ovadia, this has been Stay Off My Operating Table. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you use that discount code at joburgmeats.com of IFIXHEARTS. We'll talk to y'all next time.
Chances are you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't need to change your life and get healthier. So take action right now. Book a call with Dr. Ovadia's team. One small step in the right direction is all it takes to get started. Contact us at ifixhearts.com/talk. That's ifixhearts.com/talk.